Well, hello everybody. I finally did it. I flew the Marmotte this morning through the goggles in the Acro mode, and it was a relatively uneventful flight. It was a little short, and I'm going to show you some of the videos both from the goggles and also the HD footage that was recorded by the Caddx Turtle camera to the internal SD card. But before I do that, I want to show you the first flight I did this morning. I actually took my Tyro 99 out, which I hadn't flown in a while. To kind of warm up and make sure that that everything was working well before I put the Marmotte at risk. So without further ado, let me transition over to the flight of the recorded through the goggles DVR of the Tyro 99. Now, I've been practicing power loops and split S's on the simulator, and I'm getting pretty good at them. So I thought as long as I was flying the Tyro 99, I would try to do a split S, and that was my first split S, and I overshot the roll a little bit. Maybe I need to slow down the roll rate on that thing, but there you have my very first split S as an FPV pilot. And I think coming up now, I decided to do a big power loop. Now, next time. Now, I had the transmitter in this quad set to 200 milliwatts on the output, and I got a pretty nice signal to the goggles. Not a whole lot of breakup. A lot of jello, but you know, it's a very inexpensive quad with a cheap camera, and for what it costs, I think it's perfectly acceptable. I think now's when I do the loop. And that worked pretty good. So it's a milestone for me today. I did my first split S and my first power loop. I think at this point, I was a little over 3 minutes into the flight, and I still had some battery left, but I thought I would make an attempt at a landing. So, the problem is when you stick the nose up in the air, you can't see the ground, you can only see the air. But at any rate, it wasn't a bad landing. It just flipped over once, and I was pretty happy with that. So, that was my warm-up flight, and now I'm going to show you the first flight of the Marmotte from the goggles, and here we go. Now, I made a mistake, and one mistake that I made was I only had the video transmitter in 25 milliwatts, which is the lowest power. And as you'll see during this flight, I was getting some really bad breakup, and kind of spooked me a little bit. But the thing flies beautifully for all the experience that I've had. But you can see the video starting to break up, and it dawned on me that I hadn't turned the output power of the video transmitter, because I've been spending time with this thing on the bench, and you don't want the video transmitter getting too hot, so you turn the power down. But what it did was it basically caused me to freak out a little bit and shorten my flight. I think on this pass behind me, it really broke up again pretty bad, and made me a little nervous not being able to see that well through the goggles. So I said, nah, enough of this. I don't want to risk the quad. Let me just bring it in for a landing here, and if nothing else, it'll be a short flight, but at least it'll be a successful flight. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have a whole lot of time this morning, so I had some work to do and I had to get home. But that landing was a little better. It didn't flip over, and since there was a lot of people out there, I didn't want to fly it in too close to where all the guys were. You can see, as I was walking towards it, it dawned on me, why should I go all that way? Let me just fly it back. So I threw it in stabilized mode and just flew it back line of sight, back to the pit area. So that was it. Short and sweet. That was my first adventure through the goggles with the Marmotte, and it was a confidence builder, but next time I think I'm going to turn that video transmitter all the way up to about 500 watts, because you got all that power. There's no sense in not using it. Now this is the DVR that's on the Marmotte. Now that was just me carrying it. That wasn't a takeoff. And I noticed one thing, that I think I need to move the camera forward just a little bit, because I was getting a tiny little bit of the frame, that magnesium frame, around the very edges of the picture. So didn't hurt the flying any, but I think if I move it forward, that'll disappear. You want to be careful, because you want the protection from that. So anyway, this is that same little flight as recorded by the Caddx Turtle V2 on board the Armit and Marmotte. Right there, I switched into Acro mode. God, I wish I could get a picture like this through the goggles. I understand DJI is supposed to be developing a digital FPV system, and more power to them. If you could get a low enough latency picture like this when you're flying these things through the goggles, it would change the hobby forever. I think my maximum speed on this flight was about 50 miles an hour, so I really didn't rocket ship too much. And there we go. Now I'm going to let the thing run and get that last little bit of my line of sight flight back. But all in all, I think I won't be near as nervous the next time. The drone was very controllable and very, very easy to fly. Very stable. So hopefully the next time I show you some flight footage from this thing, it'll be full of some aerobatics and some split S's and some power loops and maybe even running a few gaps. So, with that, I will thank you all for watching, and we'll see you the next time. In the meantime, take the rest of the day off, go play with your drone, and have a great day.